I walked into a cathedral today that absolutely took my breath away. Lasu, the Cathedral of Santa Maria in Palma de Mallorca. And if you've ever been, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It has the largest rolled window in the world. It's 11 meters across, just from top to bottom. And the floor in the nave, it just fills with light that's been hitting the same stone floor for 6 centuries. And construction started in 1229, but it wasn't finished until 1601, 400 years. Think about that. The architect who laid that very first stone, that first cornerstone, King James II of Mallorca, he knew with absolute certainty that he would never live to see it finished. He would never live to see the project, the building, come to fruition. Not in his lifetime, at least, and not as in children's lifetime, not even in his grandchildren's lifetime. Think about that for a minute. You started something your grandkids won't even see. And he started something that had absolutely no chance of completing, yet he started it anyway. And think about how that applies to leadership. When was the last time that you started something in your business, in your life, knowing that you wouldn't be there to see it finished? There was no way to get there. Yesterday in Sardinia, we talked about building something to last. And today in Palma, the question is similar, but it's a lot harder. Can you build something in your store, in your life, with your team that you'll never see completed, but pour everything you have in it, heart, energy, and soul anyway, even though you're never going to see it finished? 7 minutes, one truth, and one execution move. If you're a leader who's just tired of measuring your success, measuring your worth only by what happens right now on your watch today, and you're tired of abandoning long-term work because the short-term pressure is so intense that it makes it feel pointless and you're powerless to do anything about it, and tired of that quiet suspicion that the most important things that you could possibly build are really the ones that you're going to never get credit for, I'll tell you, you're in the right place. I'm Chris Hunsicker, and this is the Dealership War Room. This isn't motivation, this isn't theory, and this is a daily leadership briefing for people who are actually in the arena and have to produce results every single day at work and at home. You're in the war room now, so let's get after it. Here's what fascinated me about La Seu. It wasn't built by one architect. It was built by dozens of architects across generations, and each one picked up where the last one left off. Think about that. Each one brought their own style. Each one had a way of bringing their own innovations, their own ideas, their own interpretation of what beauty meant and what this building was becoming. Even Gaudi, Antoni Gaudi, the great architect himself, was brought in at the turn of the century just to help him finally renovate parts of the interior. 700 years after the construction began, here he comes in, and someone was still adding their vision, their passion, their beauty. And this is what struck me. None of them tried to make it theirs or eliminate everyone else. None of them tore down what came before them, like to start over and remake it in their own image and in their own blueprint. Instead, they honored the foundation. They built on that vision that was there before they came, and then they just added their chapter to the story, knowing that it wasn't the first chapter, and most importantly, it wasn't the last chapter. That's generational leadership. And it is the rarest form of leadership that I think that there is, where you can see multi-generations build. I've helped so many different businesses on the third, fourth, and fifth generation build on the legacies, on their founders and their creators. Now, imagine for a minute that you bring that into your world. Most leaders in our industry operate on a timeline of about 18 months. That's the average tenure of a manager in any given role, GSM, GM, before they move on. They get promoted or they get replaced. 18 months. And when a new leader arrives, what's the first thing that they often do? Oftentimes they tear down what the last person built. They do the opposite of what they did because they got fired. New systems, new processes, new way of doing everything. Not because the old way was somehow broken, but because the new leader, since he's the new leader, needs to put their fingerprints on it in the new way of doing it. Their ego demands it. And the team who just spent 2 years with the old person building something, well, they just watch as it gets utterly demolished, all the time and effort they put into it. And in a matter of weeks, they learn the most toxic lesson in corporate leadership. Don't invest in anything because it won't survive. As soon as the next manager comes, it goes. That lesson, learned over and over and over again, is why your team rolls their eyes at almost every new innovative idea, every new software, every new process, every new program, not because they're cynical, but because experience, real experience in that store has taught them that nothing lasts. And whose fault is that? It ain't theirs, it's ours. The leaders who treat every role as a chance to come in and rebuild from scratch, start all over, tear everything down, instead of adding a chapter to a story that's been going on for years, that story that started before them and will continue long after them. That level of humility and understanding changes everything. So what does cathedral leadership look like in a dealership? 3 principles. Principle number 1, honor what came before you. It's that simple. When you step into a new role, before you change a single thing, understand what was built and why it was built and who invested into it. Talk to the people who were there before you arrived and ask them simply and really with real intent, hey, what was working here before the other guy left? What was the intent behind this system? Why should I protect it? Not every system needs to be preserved, and some of them do need to be changed. Some things will always need to be changed, but the leader who takes 30 days to just understand before they start rebuilding everything and tearing stuff down earns a trust that the demolition leader never will. The first stone you lay should honor the foundation that came before you, that was already there. Principle 2, build for the person who comes after you. Every system that you create, every process that you implement and install, and every cultural norm that you establish should be built to survive your departure. In other words, not to require it. Ask yourself, if I left tomorrow, would this system that I'm creating still make sense to the person who has to come in and sit in this chair next? If the answer is no, then you built it for yourself, not for the organization and for the team. See, the cathedral builders who built this cathedral behind me documented everything, the plans, the techniques, the inventions, so the next architect could simply pick up the story without starting over, without trying to reinvent everything. What are you documenting so that the next leader doesn't have to guess, doesn't have to make stuff up, doesn't have to figure what's going on? What are you building and why? Principle 3, measure your success in generations, not quarters. The advisor you're developing right now in the service drive, that one that you identified in episode 327, what if you're not there? When they become a manager, when they start to move on, what if the coaching that you're investing in today doesn't pay off until 2, 3, 4 years after you leave? Would you still invest? Would you still spend the time? Would you still love those people? See, the cathedral builders would say absolutely yes, because they understood that the greatest contributions that you or any leader, they aren't measured in what you see completed today or this week or this year. They're measured in what you made possible for the people who come after you and for the people you developed that you never got to see blossom and bloom. So here's today's execution move. And I call this the cathedral question. Why not? We're at a cathedral. I want you to sit with 3 questions tonight, preferably with a pen and a paper in your hand. Question number 1, what have I inherited in this position, in this store, that I should protect instead of replace? Think about systems. Think about the relationships, maybe the cultural norms that existed before you arrived. Which ones deserve to be honored and not demolished? Question 2, what am I building right now that could survive without me? It'll outlast me because of the solid foundation I built. Not what needs you to maintain it, but what would keep standing, keep going on its own weight. The way that we talked about yesterday when we were in Sardinia, right? That last 3,500 years. If the answer is not much, that's your cathedral project. That's where to start. Start today building something that outlasts your tenure, that outlasts your presence. And question 3, I'm going to ask you to sit with. Who am I personally investing in that I may never see reach their potential, that I won't see them bloom and develop? I'm going to do it now anyway. The development or conversation from episode 328. Some of these people, they won't bloom, they won't finish, they won't even get promoted while you're still there. Can you still pour into them anyway? Can you still give them everything you got, knowing the return might go to somebody else's ledger? See, my friend, that is cathedral leadership. And it requires a level of humility and long-term thinking, passionate commitment that our industry rarely rewards. But the leaders who practice it, they build things that last for 400 years. And they make money not just today, but years from now. Not because they were the greatest architect in the room, because they were willing, personally, humbly, to lay a stone that they'd never see become a cathedral. And that is a rare kind of leadership. And if this episode stirred something in you, a reckoning, a thought, a remembrance of other jobs that you've been building for the short term, when something in you, deep in your heart, wants to build for the long term, share this. Send it to a leader who just stepped into a new role, someone that you know, someone that you care about, and they're about to tear down everything that the last person built. Stop them. Because the cathedral, it doesn't need another demolition. It needs another architect. Someone who's willing to add a chapter to the book that's being written, has been and will be. Because elite leaders, they don't just build for their tenure in this quarter. They build for the story, the one that started before they arrived, and the one that most importantly continues long after they have left. That's architecture leadership. And the chapter that they add with their own humility, with their own precision, with the care for what came before, and the passion for what comes after, because that part of the story, those people, they're the ones that are remembered the most. They're the kind of leader that everybody talks about, and they're the kind of leader that you're becoming tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'm going to take you to Valencia, a city that has reinvented itself more times than any city in Europe. It is amazing and fascinating, and it has something to teach you and me about the difference between improving and transforming. So today, go out, create some leadership fire, and I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.